Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. I'm SocietySucks and today I'm checking out why don't countries formally declare war anymore by history matters. I mean, the most obvious reason is just the element of surprise. It's much easier to win a war when your enemy has absolutely no idea you're going to even try and attack them. But there's probably more than that, considering this video is almost 4 minutes long. So let's see what those other reasons are.
Historically, wars were begun by a formal declaration of war. These would often come in two forms. One via direct communication with a foreign government by delivering a letter or telegram, or two through a government minister asking for the passport of a foreign ambassador, thereby revoking their diplomatic immunity. But since the Second World War, there have been very few formal declarations of war and none by the major global powers, which raises the question, why not? Why did nations stop formally declaring war?
Why give your enemy time to prepare?
We're going to look at two conflicts from the Cold War. The Vietnam War between the USA and North Vietnam, and the Falklands War between Britain and Argentina. Be aware that the general reasons for there not being declarations of war in these conflicts can be applied to most other conflicts too. So the first major difference between the world pre and post World War II is that a new international framework existed, the United Nations. And the UN had very strict guidelines on what were legal grounds for war. So in the case of Vietnam, there was no declaration of war for several reasons. The first was that the US saw itself as aiding one side in an already ongoing civil war. It didn't recognise North Vietnamese independence and thus it had no one to declare war on. As far as the US government was concerned, it was aiding the legitimate Vietnamese government against an uprising, not fighting a war against any legitimate state.
I mean, you could make that argument.
The second reason was the United Nations. There was no way that the USSR was going to approve a war against a fellow communist state. And the third reason was that domestically there was no need to. You see, normally a declaration of war was needed to implement the draft, but for America, the draft from World War II had never technically ended. After the Gulf of Tonkin incident, in which a US destroyer in the region was attacked by Vietnamese patrol boats, Congress passed the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, which gave President Lyndon B. Johnson the right to deploy troops for combat operations without a formal declaration of war. And after the
I was not aware of that, but apparently that's a thing.
The Vietnam War, the US never needed to declare war because often its conflicts were much smaller, so no need for a draft. So what about the Falklands War? Why didn't Margaret Thatcher declare war on Argentina in 1982 after it seized the Falkland Islands?
Wait, she didn't?
Thatcher did actually inquire as to whether or not a declaration of war was necessary, and she was told not to. And the reasons that she was advised against such action were simple. First of all, self-defense is a legal right according to the UN, and second,
that is true.
It would complicate.
It was their territory, so this is really just self-defense. If anything, it would be Argentina who would have to declare the war.
Relationships with neutral countries. Neutral states aren't allowed to provide arms for belligerents. Fighting nations can't use their territories or waters for transiting war materials, and they have to detain troops who enter their lands along with many other restrictions. The two nations of particular concern were Spain and Chile. Spain was against the war but had some sympathies towards the Argentinian position. Plus, given the placement of Gibraltar, British naval ships entering Spanish waters by accident had to be detained, and if they weren't, this could jeopardise Spanish neutrality. And as for Chile, some British troops were stationed there for reconnaissance. And if Britain were to declare war, then Chile would legally have to detain those troops or be considered a co-belligerent. And as for Argentina, it was sourcing weapons from other countries.
If they didn't, Argentina could technically, attack Chile because they would be seen as just a British ally in said war. So they would be a legitimate military target then. I think so. So, Chile would have to detain them for its own safety.
And getting reconnaissance from the USSR, hence why a declaration of war benefited neither side. And it's these reasons which determine why many nations have no need to formally declare war anymore. Domestic powers to fight wars are largely much greater than they used to be, and wars are often small scale enough that nations don't want to deal with the hassle of formally declaring war. And yet the main reason is that if a nation doesn't formally declare war, it doesn't change its relationship with other states, meaning for them it's as if the war was never happening, meaning nothing has to change.
Yeah, this video was made 5 years ago, so before the Russia-Ukraine war, but I do remember that Russia never officially declared war on Ukraine, at least until 2024, I think, which obviously was definitely so that it wouldn't hurt its relations with other countries, which, obviously it did, because it's pretty fucking clear that it's a war. Russia could say special military operation all at once. Everybody knows it's a war. Everyone knows what they're saying is just BS. Does it really matter if you formally declare war or not? Obviously it does, because there are certain things that change depending on if it's a war or not. Well, if you formally declare it. But look, everyone's going to make their own conclusion. Everyone also has their own agenda. I don't know for certain if there were any countries which backed Russia in the beginning about this being a special military military operation and not a war. I mean, I would assume at least North Korea definitely did, and maybe China and certain other countries. I mean, I don't know for certain if there were any, but there probably were. North Korea, I'm almost 100% positive about. But yeah, honestly, if you invade the territory of another country, I don't think you need to formally declare that it's a war. I think it's pretty obvious when you invaded the territory of a sovereign nation. But yeah, I think that's everything. I don't know what else to say, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider subscribing and leaving a like. If you want to see more reactions, check out this video right here. And with that, I'll see you in the next video.